In the previous lecture, we talked about UI switches and how they have the ability to toggle two actions on and off. In this lecture, we're going to be talking about UI segmented controls. And these, very much like switches, can perform multiple actions, but they're more, or kind of act more like a UI button. And what I mean by that, a button, when pressed, triggers an action. The differences with a segmented control is it can perform multiple actions depending on which segment of it is selected. Now, if I drag and drop one into our interface to show you what it's like, you can see here if I drop it in, it has a first and second kind of segment, so two segments in total. Now, if I just bring this down, once selected on it, you can see segments 2. We can increase that by changing the number, which then we place in 4. We've got 4 segments, but not all of them have names or anything in them. So if I change this segment here to number 2, and then from within it, I can give it a title. So if we call this one the third, and then select segment 3, which happens to be the fourth, as segment 1 starts at 0. Type in 4, and then we've got selected. And we can make sure that the behavior is set on selected. This means when the view loads up, if we've got selected our first one as selected, the first segment will be pre-selected in the view. Now we've got these sets up, and basically what we're going to do and have it configured is when we press one of these segments, it's going to change the text within our label. And by doing that, it will give our users a visual confirmation and yourself of which segment has been selected. Now, you would have seen these segment controls various places within your device already. You would have seen them in the first example on the App Store when you're selecting from free or paid apps on the most downloaded, or maybe when you've selected from your map application when you're changing the view from standard to satellite to even hybrid, you're using segmented controls. Now, what we're going to do then, as we've got this set up, we're going to create our actions and outlets. So make sure we're selected on our viewcontroller.h. And we're going to create an outlet for our label, and we call it label. We also need to create an outlet for our segmented control, as we need to know which segment we have selected. So I'll simply call this segment control, connect that up, and then I'm going to drag and drop it in once more to change it to an action. Now I simply name this segment button. There we go, and connect that up. So we've got actions and outlets set up. We're going to jump straight into our viewcontroller.m, where we now go to configure it. So how do we know which segment is selected? It's pretty simple. It's the same way in how we know what our button was selected on in our previous lecture. We need to use an if statement. So we type in if, and in the condition we do self.segmentControl.selected segment index equals 0, which will be our first segment, then perform the action within our statement. And what the action we're going to do is self.label.text to equal segment 1 was selected. There we go. And if I copy this and paste it in, as we've got 4 segments altogether, meaning we need 4 if statements, making sure that I change each of the numbers on the end. Now, even though it goes up to 3, we've got 4 together, but you got to remember it starts at 0, and then change what it says in the text. So when we interact with our segment, whatever segment we select, it's going to perform all 4 of these if statements. Now, if we select our first segment, it's going to read all 4 of these and then find out, oh, it's only the first one that kind of equals to me as I'm the first segment. Same goes for the fourth one. If we press our fourth segment, it will read all of these, but then it'll go, hang on, the fourth if statement equals to me. So then I get to perform this task inside. So that's how you kind of find out which segment you're selecting. And then you place in the action in between each of the parentheses. So if we go to build and run and test it out, so as you can see, nothing really happens because this code only performs when you interact with our segmented control. If we copy and paste all 4 of these if statements and place them in the view did load, which we could quickly do right now, you'll see then, once the view loads, it will read all 4 of those if statements, find out that our first segment is selected, and display the text segment 1 was selected. But that's only because we placed that within our view_did_load. We need it to be within our button to kind of change when we interact with our segment control. So if I select the third one, it will say segment 3 was selected. If I select the second one, segment 2 was selected. And the fourth one, segment 4 was selected, and we can go back to segment 1. So that's how you can control the segments, add additional segments on, and get them to perform their actions depending on which segment was selected. Further on in the course, we use segment controls a lot more when we get to our web view and even our map view applications.